Hey guys, it's Scott with scottieb Cards. In this video, I'm talking about a few players whose cards I'm worried about heading into 2025. Every year there are players whose cards go up and players whose cards go down. And in this video, there's a few players whose cards I'm concerned about, and I'm concerned about them for the long run. You know, I've done my video on players who I think could have their cards increase for various reasons. And now in this video, I'm looking at some players I'm concerned about for their particular cards. Here's a few players that are kind of borderline, but I did not include them because they had an excellent year last year. Matt Chapman, I think, is heading into his age 32 or 33 season, but he had a great year, 7 WAR seasons. So his cards still could be relevant. He still has like an outside chance at the Hall of Fame. Same with Corey Seager. He had a 5 WAR season. If he can just stay healthy, he has a 135 career OPS plus for a shortstop. So he's kind of really hitting his stride right now, 2-time World Series MVP winner. And so because of that, I do think Seager has a pathway as well if he can just stay healthy the next 3 or 4 years at the same production. So I'm not including those two, but the first player I am including, which may surprise you, is Carlos Correa. We're going to obviously discuss the elephant in the room, which is the trash can banging situation, 2017 Astros cheating scandal. And that's always going to be a part of Carlos Correa's story, right? And with that being said, we won't talk too much about it, and that might hurt his value in the long run regardless, but we're gonna look at him as a player currently. So here we can see this last year. I would argue he had his best year of his entire career from a rate perspective. A 152 OPS plus, a 310 batting average. He had 14 home runs in 36 games and 3.7 WAR. He was amazing defensively last year. Everything clicked for Carlos Correa in those 86 games, but he only played 86 games, and that's half a season, and that's the issue. Let's look at his last few years. He seems to be relatively healthy. From 2021, he played 148, 136, 135, but he's only played one season above 150 games and only 2 above 140 games. Some of it's not his fault, like the shortened season in 2020, but regardless, we need to see him have an elite production season over the course of 140 games plus. That's what he's missing. He has a career 44.4 B WAR, baseball reference WAR, and a 38.1 F WAR, Fangraphs WAR, which is good. That's good for a player heading into their age 30 season, but we heard when he was doing all of his free agency about the worst ankle that they've ever seen, failed multiple physicals, and if that's what's going to happen, that's very concerning. So I don't think Carlos Correa's cards are doomed by any stretch, but he needs to have essentially top 10 MVP finish this year, which he's only done like once. Maybe even a top 20 MVP finish if you want to be generous. Basically like a 6 to 7 WAR is what he needs to bounce his cards back. That'd put him up above 50 baseball reference WAR and right around what, 43, 44 Fangraphs WAR heading into his 30s, where players usually decline. So that's my thoughts on Correa. And these are his projections. So if you look at his projections for age 30, 31, and 32, he actually is projected to have a pretty good couple years in regards to WAR. Again, and I want to be very clear, WAR is an accumulative number, which is great to get an idea of how a player plays on defense, offense, and base running, but we still have to have counting stats. And right now he has 187 home runs for a shortstop, which is decent. You know, he's never really been a stolen base guy, which is surprising, but he has relatively good batting average at 275 and an 826 OPS and a 126 OPS plus. So he has some stuff going for him. But if we look at his projected stats, 18 home runs, 16 home runs, 15 home runs, while hitting 272, 262, 258, is that good enough even though he'll get 7, 9, 10 WAR over the next 3 years? And that'd put him at 54? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. I'm not convinced that's enough to make his cards relevant, especially the baggage that he has. So with that being said, like Baseball Savant, all of his percentile rankings look great, but his cards are down. Even though he had a great year this past year, this is all data since 2015 when he debuted, and maybe I should have looked more so in the last few years. But regardless, we can see that his Topps Chrome short print base in a PSA 10, his last sale was $20, which is really low. His rookie autograph BGS 9.5 from Topps Chrome, $60. Bowman Chrome autograph PSA 10, $84. His blue BGS 9.5 is $231. So everything is down. People are losing their patience on Correa heading into his 30s. So he needs a big year to bounce back. Next up is Xander Bogaerts. This is a player, talk about a disappointing start to his Padres tenure, and I think that contract is looking very bad, $280 million. I think the Red Sox are probably a little bit happy they didn't sign him for a $200 million plus deal, especially after this past year. With that being said, though, he could absolutely bounce back. Look at his career prior to 2023. He's hitting in San Diego, which is a lot worse hitter's park than Boston ever is, which is a challenge. So I want to point that out for sure. But 4.4 WAR in 2023, which is his lowest for a full season since 2017. And then 1.2 WAR this last year, which is his lowest since 2014 when he was a rookie. So not great. And it was his first negative offensive season. So he had a 264 batting average, but a very low OBP of 307, a very low slugging below 400, and an OPS at 688 for an OPS plus of 92 with only 11 home runs. Yes, I know I think he's playing shortstop. No, he's playing second base this last year. I think he's moving to shortstop this year because I think Ha-Seong Kim is gone. Am I making this up? Let me know, Padres fans. But regardless, he's at 40.8 WAR. He's in a worse position than Carlos Correa heading into his age 32 season. And so I had some hope for Xander heading into his 30s when he was going to San Diego, but it just hasn't translated to good performance yet. Again, not great projections overall. His batting run value is low. Blue is bad. It's 20th percentile. Overall, he is not great. His expecting batting average is high, but everything else was low. His expected slugging was low. Everything was low here. And you can see he only averages 4.3 WAR for every 162 games played, where the average shortstop is 4.9, and the average shortstop has all of their negative years included as well. This is his prime WAR for 162 games played, which isn't great. His cards are even cheaper. We can see I included his PSA 10 base, his Bowman Chrome autograph PSA 10 refractor, and his PSA 10 base autograph. They're actually more expensive than crazily Carlos Correa. Maybe it's just because he was a Red Sox, and Red Sox fans love collecting Red Sox players for good reason. But either way, I feel like he still has room to drop, which is concerning. So he needs to have a bounce back year this year in order to maintain where he's at, in my opinion. Next up is Giancarlo Stanton. I wasn't really going to include him until we found out that both of his elbows are just useless. And basically, he can't swing a bat. I think what happened, I've had tennis elbow before, and golfer's elbow, they stink. As we get older, we all have these little aches and pains. And I'm guessing after the World Series, because they said it was bothering Stanton end of last year, and even all last year. And so I'm assuming they thought they could do physical therapy and rehab and have it be ready for spring training and have it taken care of with rest. Didn't happen. So now their goal is to have him ready for basically the middle of the season. And the big thing for Stanton is he needs to get to 500 home runs. That is his only real path to major long-term value, because that would get into the Hall of Fame for a lot of people. But if he doesn't get to 500 home runs, he has a very interesting resume, but not, I wouldn't say, a Hall of Fame caliber resume. And so because of that, this is a player I'm very concerned about in 2025. And it's not one really need to talk about because it's just he's not going to play. He's not going to accumulate stats heading into his age 35 season. Then he'll be 36 the next year. So if he doesn't get those 20 home runs, the odds of him getting to 500 is really low, and that hurts his odds of making the Hall of Fame. And he's the type of player who's a fringe Hall of Famer where the value of the Hall of Fame actually would matter, as he sits at 429 home runs. With that being said, crazily, he has a 136 OPS plus, which is basically tied with Corey Seager. So that just kind of shows how good Seager's been, which I think is very interesting. But either way, he was projected to have 25, 20, and 16 home run seasons for the next 3 years, which would give him about, 55, 60 home runs or so. And because he's not going to have those 60 home runs, because he's not going to have 25 home runs this year, it's just unfortunate for Stanton. Here are his cards. He still has a lot of value. He is up because of his postseason performance in the World Series in the last year, which makes total sense, very deservingly so. We can see even some little bit of a peak over here around the World Series. But his PSA 10 base, just his base rookie card, is $97. His Topps Chrome BGS 9.5 autograph is $250. His PSA 10 Bowman Chrome autograph is $350. So it feels like there's a lot of room for him to go down, especially if he doesn't play this year. And let's assume he doesn't play at all. He was talking about if he has the surgery on his elbows, he'd be out the entire year regardless. So kind of a career-threatening situation currently, and that's why I'm concerned about Stanton and his card values in 2025. And last but not least is Christian Yelich. He's a player who needs to have a big year this year. And we can say that about a lot of players, and I know that, but him in particular needs to bounce back. He was starting to have a good year this last year before his back got in the way, and he had, I think he had surgery on it, and he was out. But he was really kind of reinventing himself, right? He had 11 home runs, a 315 average, and 909 OPS, and an OPS plus of 151, which was his third highest for his career. And we know what happened in 2019. He was on pace to win his second MVP in a row, broke his kneecap, fell the ball off of it, and he's never really been the same since then. And we kind of saw a renaissance in 2023 of who Yelich was with the 3.6 WAR season. He still had 28 stolen bases, and he had 19 home runs, which is great. And he's having even a better year this next year, and then he got hurt again. So just unfortunate, very interesting resume, kind of similar to Stanton, just like really great peak years and then injuries in between. But these 2 years are really insane. 164 OPS plus, 179 OPS plus. He had a 1.1 OPS. You know how many guys in the last like 10 years have done that? Probably just like 2 or 3. And so pretty impressive. But again, he just needs to stay healthy. He needs to have some all-star caliber years, which he really has only had 3 times, including last year before he got hurt. So I would love to see Christian Yelich have 3 good years in a row, but the clock is ticking for him and I'm losing confidence. If we look at his projections, they're not great. 2.4, 1.8, 1.3 WAR, 15 home runs, 13 home runs, 11 home runs. He's not necessarily a home run hitter right now. His only real major home run seasons, I believe, were those 2 years, 36 and 44. His next highest is 21 and then 19. And so Christian Yelich has a lot of work to do. Overall, if you look at his cards, they're just down. They're just down from when 2019 is as far back as market movers goes back, but we can just see that he's down across the board. So with that being said, those are the 4 players that I'm concerned about heading into 2025. I will note I've been using market movers a lot lately for my videos and I've really enjoyed it. And Ty, who's a part of Spitballing Cards with me, is one of my better friends, and he's actually the lead developer for market movers. And so if you're interested in ever signing up for it, there's a discount code in my description currently. If you use the code scottieb, you'll actually get 20% off of whatever tier you join, whether monthly or annually. So if you're interested in tracking your cards or using these graphs and comparing cards like I do a lot, feel free to check it out. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.